Hello and welcome to Stampscapes Live, Friday Night Live. I have a piece of the Claybord Smooth by Ampersand Art, okay? And what this piece is a hardboard panel that has a soft kaolin clay added over the top of it, which is a workable soft clay, not so soft that it's, malleable, without, using some tools on it, but you can use it as a scratchboard type of surface, but it's just a blank panel, okay? It's for oil painting acrylics. Not really so much of the soft media. I guess you can apply some types of things on here, like graphite. I wouldn't recommend it for something like pastels or something that requires a little bit more of a tooth to it. Hello, Maureen. Because it's very smooth, okay, and like I said, it's an art panels, so it's 100% museum quality and archival. So fine artists use a lot. Okay, so over the years they came out with some different sizes, and for the stamper it was mostly the embellishment size. Hello, Annie. And those sizes, were like assorted square sizes. Things like for little embellishments like that. I stamped my little covered bridge on this one. You can put this on a card somewhere. Some people did like scenes, and then they stamped out one part of the scene sometime and colored it in and had these little pop-up types of things on their cards. Not necessarily on a larger piece of the same material, but more, like on a cardstock or something like that. So there was a lot of kind of embellishment types of usages. These are really fantastic for Christmas ornaments or something like that too. You can take a crocodile with that punching mechanism and punch a hole right through that, and it just goes through it like butter. But as far as the panel goes on these, I liken it to like a piece of masonite or something like that, like a clipboard. It's about the same thickness, but it's a much higher quality than that because, like I said, fine artists use this type of surface too. And all they've done is they've just cut it down into smaller pieces. Now, the 5x7 wasn't so much of a accessory type of thing for the stamping, community. It's a little bit big for a card, and again, it's heavier because it's a hardboard panel. So I don't know if people were stamping on this type of thing and mailing it off. It would fit in a 6x9 envelope with no problem and still go on the standard letter size format, but you'd have to just pay more because of the sheer weight of it. Okay. All right, so just a little bit of a background on Ampersand Art. They make all kinds of different types of surfaces. There's ones that are for pastels that has a little bit more texture. There's gessoed surfaces. They make cradled panels too. I don't know. I have some somewhere, but they're raised like this, okay? Now this is a box form, okay? So they have these different types of box kits too, where you stain the sides, whatever you want, but then this same material is on the lid like this, okay? So, it's, what is the dimensions of the 6x6 then, okay? So, or is that 5? 5-inch, okay, 5x5 right here. And that was made so that the 4-inch tiles can go in here, and you can make like a little coaster set or something like that, which is really cool. It doesn't have to be coasters. It just be more kind of a art panels that you put in here. I think it would really be great in kind of a thematic type of things. But anyways, this is my Lighthouse, and I stamped this one years ago, and you can tell that little tinge of color on there. I used some of the stain that I used over here on the top to give it more of that aged look, so it has a little bit more of that warmer glow. Okay, so like I said, this isn't like a stamping surface. Stamping came along much, I don't know, some point in time, they Ampersand saw my stamps somewhere, and they contacted me to see if they can do something and and coordinate some sort of product with me. And this is years and years and years ago when no one was stamping on anything kind of beyond glossy and matte cardstock. And they wanted to sell my stamps in a kit, so it didn't really. I thought it was way too premature, and people weren't going to be buying things like this. But I contacted them again, I don't know, like 5 years later, maybe, I don't know, 5 to 7 years later from their initial contact with me, when people started stamping, when I saw people stamping on dominoes, I thought, okay, wait a minute. There was unconventional surfaces that we were starting to stamp on that didn't take, the traditional inks or anything. You had to use StazOn on there, and there wasn't too much you can do on a domino, okay? So I thought, okay, if people are doing that, maybe they're going to be open to stamping on a domino-sized piece, a medium that takes everything, you know what I mean? So instead of doing like this unconventional thing that doesn't take anything, I thought it might be a good idea to see if people were ready for, a true art surface. So, hey, people liked it that tried it, for the most part. We demonstrated in our make and takes a lot, and people bought it, but it didn't take off, too much. So I don't know. I just I sold it for a while, but then I don't know. I focused on the stamps. But then they re-released some of the smaller size pieces. I don't know, maybe about 2 years ago or something like that. But now they're called art tiles. Okay, we used to call it Stampboard. But anyways, you can see, as far as like any type of surface, it's okay. For me, I think it's the most beautiful stamping surface that can ever be. Okay, because this is like super, super smooth. It's really absorbent for inks. You can use whatever type of ink you want on here, and it'll dry just fine. I would imagine every type of ink will work on here, okay? Super smooth, and you know what I mean? It just, impressions just are amazing on there, okay? It's more expensive than, a piece of paper, yeah. But on something like this, you can frame these, you can hang these up or whatever, and those cradled panels are raised, so they are ready for just hanging on the wall if you want to. And they're really great for that. But just these panels alone, these little boards are really fun to use. And like I said, the smaller ones are really perfect for things like ornaments or anything you want, kind of more of on a rigid surface, that you don't have to make yourself, okay, like mounting a piece of paper onto a stiff panel or something like this. This one's going to be ready to go. And these things like this too, you can shellac them if you want to and make them look really glazed. And that's one of the things that I use on here, I should say. When I'm done with these, I spray them usually with a polyurethane spray as opposed to an art sealant, just because it gives it that really thick, almost like a glazed fired tile look. You can pour one of those types of urethanes that come in a can on there if you want to, and just let it dry, and it would be a really thick, like a shellac or something like that, and it's really cool. And like I said, it looks like a raised fired tile, or glazed fired tile. As I'm saying this, I'm wondering why don't I use this more often? It's because I'm trying to use more like very easily found types of media, and I don't mean just in the U.S. I mean worldwide. I had a customer order some things from New Zealand recently. You know what I mean? I don't know if she can find. Well, she might be able to find Ampersand Art because they're a really big art panel manufacturer as far as worldwide. And you can probably find this Claybord Smooth, but it might be in like in larger sheets, okay? Okay, so I hope I just didn't double stamp this. I kind of raised it because this is on, this is raised, so I went like this and it kind of rocked it. Yeah, a little bit, but not too bad. It's a little bit, it's like a bold impression like that. So like I said, I went like this on there and it went, because it's like on that little bit of, I don't know how thick that is. It's like a, yeah, I'd say it's like 1/8 of an inch high or something like that. Okay, let's see. Hello, Linda, Patty, Sandy, Helen. Good to see everyone. Cecile, Cynthia, Berna. Did I miss anyone? I think I already, Patty, I got her. Magnets. Magnets and pins. Oh, I should say, so, you know, when people talk about some techniques being really advanced, I'd never be able to do that, you know. The thing that I did for a preschool and kindergarten class, okay, was we had to make magnets, and they did it in the stamp board style. So they stamped out their Lakeside Cove. They put a background down using 3 tones of blue, you know. And that this video, the video that I of the instructions for that project I put online. I think I put it on there twice. I just did it as just a project, but then I think it's called, like, if you type in Stampscapes, stamping with kids or something like that, it should come up. But it's a full-on stamping project and coloring in the background. But then they added, you know, their little stars by, you know, taking a scratch knife. I'll show you guys how to do that. But they did it all, and they did, you know, I don't know, instead of using like a white paint pen or something to make stars, they were doing it right into the panel. And, you know, all of, I don't know, 100% of them got it just fine. And I didn't touch their cards or their pieces. But they did that, and they did another one. I think I did 2 different projects with them. One was Lakeside Cove. And, oh yeah, refrigerator magnets. And they might have made a pin too, so they have those pin backings that are self-adhesive. They're like sticker pin backings, you know, that you put on a shirt or something like that. I think they did that on another piece of the panel. They were all 2x2 too, because I had to work through a ton of kids, so it wasn't like, you know, doing like a, you know, 5x7 piece or something like that. But I talked to some of those kids later, you know, that were in my class, my son's class, and I don't know, years later, you know, those refrigerator type of magnets and kids projects, they tend to stay on the fridge, you know, so it's like, I don't know, I saw some kids later on when they were like in 5th grade or something like that, and they said they still have the that project up if they remembered me. So, always pretty cool, and yeah, it's great. You know what I mean? Like 3-dimensional things too that you can do something with like that. I don't know. I think it's better for kids, you know. It's kind of dynamic too. So there's a little bit of drawing in there as well. Okay, so I'm just doing all this. I'm going to treat this like a scratchboard, okay? If you just joined in, I was mentioning earlier that you know, this type of surface is really just, it's for any medium, okay, not just inks. A lot of people paint on this type of thing with oil paints or something like that, acrylics, you know. I don't know about watercolor, maybe. I mean, you could, but this would be very absorbent for watercolor because of that absorbent kaolin clay on there. It's soft clay, so I'll talk about that when I get into the scratching of this, you know, and adding highlights and so on and so forth. I like doing, okay, you can add a lot of color into these too. I tend to like my scratchboard pieces a little bit more grayscale and, you know, black and white or whatever. So I'm going to do it that way, and I think you'll be able to see my marks a little bit easier if there's more contrast on here. So I don't know. Has anyone tried that? Oh, you saw that ad, Patty? I just looked through that RSM, like, I don't know, like a couple minutes ago. Um, yeah, that was the project that I did, I don't know, fairly recently. So if anyone looks in RSM, there's a lot of great stuff in there. I don't know if Jeannie is on. Jeannie, there you are. Jeannie's featured in there. Back from Alaska on her research trip for scenic stamping that she went on, right, Jeannie? You went there to research. Yeah, but there's a lot of great scenes in there. Rubber Stamp Madness was always like a really good kind of promoter of scenic stamping. Most of the other magazines, it was more about the card making aspect of things, which is probably what I mean, like just the pure stamping thing. That's not as popular as card making that uses stamps. But Rubber Stamp Madness has always been about kind of the art of the act of rubber stamping. So, there isn't really too much of a, of a form that epitomizes stamping more than scenic stamping, in my opinion. Because it's all about the impressions and the repetition of imagery, which is what, rubber stamping is all about. It's about repeatability of imagery, right? So, like right here, I'm repeating this cloud many times right here. So, Rubber Stamp Madness, they've always been a really great promoter of the genre, the niche genre that. So check out if you have a chance to pick up a copy. If you don't have a subscription, I don't know. Is there Barnes and Noble around? People, I don't know. Jeannie said she's going to go to Barnes and Noble to pick it up. Isn't that what you said, Jeannie? I forgot what you said. Let's see. Should I leave a little bit of an opening like that? Let's go ahead and let's go for another impression. These ones right here, I'm going for a little bit of a lighter impression. You see how these ones are a little bit darker. It's not as important on stamp board. Although, I just assume not have to undo a bunch of things. But on this, you can scratch back into this and reveal the white of the page again. Okay. Not to get too in depth about, just what Claybord Smooth is. But if I wanted to, okay, I can take like a fine grit sandpaper, an extra fine, and I can sand this whole thing off still and just start new, okay? So it's one of the most forgiving surfaces that you can ever stamp on out there. And it's not like a forgiving surface in terms of it being like a, like a foil, metallic foil that if you stamp on it, with stays on ink, like a specialty ink or like a Brilliance, you can wipe it right off, okay? This is a surface that takes every type of medium and it's absorbing into the surface. It's beyond the surface and going into the clay a little bit. But the clay is thick enough. It's not an inch thick or anything like that, or But like I said, you can sand this all off, all right, and no problem. You can start over again. If you mess up in one area, you can sand it down, and then stamp right in. You don't want to put like grooves in there or something like that and stamp back into it if you can help it. But I don't know. It's really a phenomenal surface. All right. So let's get some texturing down here. This is kind of like that little ad that Patty was just talking about. I stamped my Seaside Cove down here, the new lighthouse, clouds up in the sky, and then we'll get some texturing down there. Maybe I'll do a little bit comparison, contrast type of thing. This is the scene that was in the latest Rubber Stamp Madness right here, with the holographic cardstock up there and this silver cardstock right here for that, and just plain white cardstock right down here, and we've merged them I wasn't even sure if I could do that, but I thought the experiment worked out pretty good. But we'll do something like this, just on a flat surface like this. I'm wondering if there's any kind of application where we can do like a different size of this in a mirror, you know, or a horizon card format. Okay, let's get some texturing down here. All right, so this is my little bit of a opening in the sky. There'll be some light coming in here. You can also do other things too. You can put like scratches back into this, and you can have this lighthouse beam kind of beaming out this way if you want to. I don't know. A lot of different things here. Okay, so this is the tiny rock stamp, and I'm just going to do it from the outside edge in, like this, so that there's stronger impressions out here and lighter ones in here, because it's going to go from light to dark like this, so it looks like the light is kind of reflecting down on the water and on our pebbly sand area. Okay, so every time you re-ink this, you just start out here for your stronger impressions, and then the more you stamp it off, naturally the lighter the impression gets, and that's when you're in the light area. So wet to dry, okay? Yeah, Jeannie, did you get your RSM yet? Is there anyone else in the chat here or that's watching that has a feature or a card in the latest issue? Or any issue, you know? There were a lot of scenes in there that had Stampscape stamps in there in this issue. There was the fall feature. Jeannie had her feature, but then she was also in another thing, you know, Stamper of the Month, too. Or Stamper, was it Stamper of the Month, or was it New Stamper, or something like that? She's not a new Stamper, but maybe as far as submissions or something like that go. Okay, so see that right there? Dark to light like that, right? But you just work your tones. Here it is down here on this, you know, longer format like that. All right. It's the same stamp, I think. I might, okay, on this one I use the larger one as well, just because it's so, you know, so much bigger. On this one I won't do that, though. I'll just go with that. Let's see. Did I say hello to Verna? If I didn't, hello. Hello to anyone else that's on. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to Jeannie. Jeannie gave a shout out to the Friday Night Lives too. So thank you, Jeannie. Okay, so let's add some tone to this. I approached these a little bit different than just doing this on paper, because I want to. The fun thing for me using this like a scratchboard style of surface right here. It's the same type of clay that's used on scratchboard. I think it might be a little bit denser and smoother, but you can work it. Okay, so the thing that I'm getting at here is I'm going to tone in this scene a little bit more than I normally would, like say on cardstock, white cardstock, okay? And it's because I want to texturize this piece and illuminate some areas, so I use these tools. They're called scratch knives, okay? And you just put it into these calligraphy nibs, but the nib here is this, in this case, it's a little leaf shape one that's, I'll post the thing that I use in the description later on, but this tool right here, there's different type. There's not a lot of scratch knives, okay? There's different kits, but I'd say there's like 5 things overall. This one's just a straight, kind of like a spear-looking nib, okay? And it just goes a uniform straight line. This one's more of this, imagine like a spoon, like a tiny spoon that's been flattened down on one side, so it would give the edge of it a sharpness, right? If you've just, flattened it out on a grinder or something like that. Okay, so it allows for a little bit more of a varied reverse mark, okay? And then there's other ones, I don't use them too much. There's this one called a fiber brush by Ampersand Art. Okay, but like I said, I won't get into that too much, but you can use all kinds of other things, media, or things like steel wool or sandpaper. If Jeannie was doing this on a large 8x10 or something like that, she used a lot of like wispy types of motions in her pieces with additive types of processes, like with Dr. Martin's Bleed Proof White or something like that. Okay, but if you were working on this type of surface, if she wanted to, she can go in with some, like a sandpaper, like a coarse grain sandpaper. I don't know what it would be, like 400 grit or something like that, or whatever. And you can just go back into your piece, and it would scratch away those types of marks on there too. Okay, so I think in the Ampersand Art one, in the kit, they actually have some steel wool. And one time I asked him about that. I said, "Hey, well, what's the difference between the Ampersand Art steel wool and I don't know, regular wool, steel wool, or art steel wool, and the just regular?" And they said, well, a lot of the other steel wools out there, they're treated with oil so that they don't rust, and theirs is doesn't have that in there. So that would be fairly key for different artists. Depending on the media that you're using, you can't be using something oil-based and go on there and then go in there with a water-based thing afterwards. It might kind of resist, work as a resist in there. Okay, so I'm adding tone around in here. This almost seems, I don't know, it seems like, I haven't done this for a while, but it seems like this is applying faster. I think it's a little bit less absorbent than cardstock. Okay, I guess that makes sense. I mean, clay is really absorbent, but this is a denser surface than a cardstock would be. Okay, even if it's clay, like a semi-gloss, like clay coated, I wouldn't be surprised if the grains in this clay that they're laying down here are like finer than the grains of clay in cardstock. Cardstocks are clay coated. So I seem to be getting more mileage out of, one inking of this. It seems. All right, so seeing that right up there, I'm just kind of shading this where it's generally darker on the perimeter, but I am going in between, like say right in here, just to make that cloud a little bit more illuminate and have this kind of mark right in here, but I'm just going to scratch that out a little bit. It's a little bit like harsh right there, where that, I don't know what happened there. But again, it doesn't matter, because we can just, scratch back into it with this type of surface right here. And right here, okay, so I would be really careful normally if I'm going around in here, because I can get whatever color onto my house and Lighthouse. I mean, if I get a little bit on there, it doesn't really matter, right? Even on white cardstock. But on this, like I said, if I get too much, all it is just, I just need to go back in there and just scratch that ink right off the surface there. Okay, that's the same thing in here. Okay, see these little wave ripples right in here. I would normally be careful about working around those. I'd come into it with a colored pencil or something like that. You can use colored pencil on here too. But I'm just going to go right across like this, and I'm getting that shaded area underneath that wave. But wait, you know, Kevin, you colored in your waves. Now they're, the white areas are, toned out. But you just take your scratch knife like this, like that. Now I'm going to do this, later on, but I'm just going to show you right here so you can just reveal the white in there. And those are the types of things that we're doing with like white paint pens and things like that, okay? But this, it's a much more exact tool. So you can add those little highlights in as tiny a little line as you want, right? Instead of like a paint pen dot, all right? Which I do most of the time, but on here, it's just so you can get much more. I guess you can get kind of much more expression in there because it's much more like it's like you're writing or something like that, with your hand. More movement that you can kind of, or texturing that you can add in with, your own hand movement, like handwriting, the more expression, personal expression you can kind of, I don't know, whatever, convey. And some of you are saying, hey, we don't want that, we want it to go, you know what I mean? It might not be, the expression we want or something like that. You get used to it, though. I used to teach stamp board in one of my classes. It was the third class that I taught. And a lot of times people would take all three classes, okay? And when people start doing those reverse marks with these tools, it might take them, I don't know, 2 minutes, I would say. A lot of people aren't used to removing media off of their surface that they've just applied, okay? So it's kind of a little bit of a different type of experience because we're used to doing additive types of things, in not doing something that's going to reveal light on dark, or actually physically removing the media off of there. Now, if you work with white a lot, you're kind of doing that type of thing because but you're doing an additive process, but it is kind of working like removing almost media or darker media. But this one's like, actually removing it. And I don't know, maybe I have talked about this before because I seem to recall saying this a lot, but I think it's using a different part of the brain. It's accessing a different part of the brain when you're doing kind of a reverse type of mark on a surface. And I can say that because the classes, when people were doing this, when they're doing additive types of things, it's real social and everyone's talking, and having a great time. But man, when they started doing like the scratching part of it, everyone was just working away. They weren't puzzled or anything like that either. But it got like really, really quiet in the class. It was almost like meditation or something like that, even when there was a lot of people in there. It was a silent 20 people. And all you can hear was, well, if you can hear it at all, the little silent scratching of metal on clay. All right. I don't know if I'm taking this as far as I can. I'm probably still being a little bit conservative about my application here because I'm used to working on a white piece of paper, Let me go a little bit darker here, just so we can see like more highlights that I add back in here. Hello, Bonnie. You're not late to the party at all. One mention in RSM was a card that a woman had sent 13 years ago. Wow. I need to check that one out, Patty. I've talked with some people before, and or not some, but I remember chatting with someone mentioning, I think, just that very thing. It's like they sent in something to RSM at one time. I don't know if they return all submissions, or do they not return? Maybe they don't return submissions, but I thought they return. I don't remember. But I remember something along those lines. Maybe I'm thinking about something else now. I'm thinking about it. But that, I don't know, that sounds familiar. It's pretty interesting, though. It's amazing that there's still, unless they filed that card away for some sort of specific theme, it's interesting that they've kept it on file and knew where to use it or whatever. Unless they were just happened to be looking through all their past submissions or something like that. Yeah. All right. I think that's as far as I'll go. I got a little bit heavy-handed right there, but I'll just scratch that right off. Let's go a little bit more around in here too. Oops. And that is real heavy-handed right in there. I'll get that out of there. I just wanted a little bit of tone in there, and I ended up adding too much of it. Same thing around my lighthouse there too. Maybe subconsciously, I need to make a point of the subtractive process on this one. All right. Okay, here's the thing. I'm going through in my mind if I should add in some foreground down here. It's easier to do these little scratchy things in here and to illuminate more if I'm not working around something in the foreground. But if I add in too deep of a groove in some areas with my scratch knives, the surface isn't smooth in that area where the groove is, so if you try to stamp over the top of it, it's not going to stamp in that groove, right? So you have to kind of decide, you know, on whether you should add stuff now or post, you know, scratches, you know, that you put in there. I'm going to add this in right now. I think it'll be a better idea to do this right now, because these little lines, I am not going to be you know, I'm not going to be, I don't want those lines to be broken up, you know, with a scratch in there, okay? It would look kind of awkward. So I'm going to add these in right now. Like about like that. Okay. I think was I telling you, Jeannie? They didn't mention this in your article, but I always said I seem to recall. I don't know if I did, but if it's just I'm making this up in my memory. But I thought that the article on your stamping should be stamp expressionism. You know. That would be. It seemed to be a fitting kind of a article theme for your pieces, especially. I don't know if I saw that boat one that you did, that ship one. I remember the other ship ones that you did, but I don't remember that specific one. Were you not supposed to? Did you post your article scenes, or were you not supposed to? You know, they don't want you posting, you know, stuff. You know, that's going to come out in the article all over social media before the article comes out. You know what I mean? They want it, you know what I mean? They want it kind of special for that issue. So I was thinking maybe you didn't post that, but that was awesome Well, awesome, all of the pieces, but that ship one was really something. Hello, Phyllis. Hello, Ginger. Hello, Jen. Okay, I'm going to tint this one. Should I go blue on this one? Yeah, that other one that I showed was warm tones, right? Okay, so we're going to tint this right here. All right, so Annie was just in the class, and we were talking about tinting, you know, pieces. It feels like a in all of these live streams. I'm talking about the things that we just talked about, Annie. So Annie, I recommended Annie to do some grayscale pieces, okay, and I just did another one of that, you know, that fallen leaves. Composition, but I was saying that you can tint your pieces with your grayscale pieces with color. I mean, you can make it more colorful. It doesn't have to be monochrome. Okay, now these are grayscale, and I'm just running this color over all areas. I've seen where people do grayscale though, and they do different areas and different objects with different colors, but I tend to think it looks really effective when you're just doing it monochrome, you know, using the same color in all areas. It looks like an antiqued like print to me sometimes, especially if you're doing it in warm tones like a sepia or something like that, or a, you know, a distress walnut or something of that sort. But I tend to like that look. I mean, it certainly makes it easy too, but you can add kind of a richer tinge to your gray scale pieces. I like it just in grayscale too, but this just, in this case, this one added, you know, temperature to it, so it's adding, you know, this kind of cool tone blue. Yeah, so it makes it a little bit silverish in some areas. Okay, so I'm adding a little bit more around the perimeter like this. It doesn't read as like blue or something like that out there, but it just gives it a nice deep, rich kind of grayscale in those areas. I think the more I tone out here, it looks like it has a stormier feel to it too, doesn't it? I guess it's making it darker overall, like that. But see, I'm still retaining my kind of lighter areas, at least, even if it's not white. All right. All right. So there we have it, like that. My two pieces right here. So I'm going to wait. I use mostly this leaf-shaped tool. These come in a 2-pack from Speedball. Speedball's the maker of a lot of those calligraphy nibs, and they just happen to make the scratchboard nibs too. And I think that they're the best. And I'll write the code. I can't remember the name of this. I don't have my glasses right here. But there's a number on this tip right here, okay? And the way you use these, sometimes, I'll get this covered right now, but I have a little bit of a sharpening stone somewhere, but I can't find it. I haven't, like I said, I haven't done this for a while, but these different types of sandpapers, this one's a extra fine 400 grit, okay? But these blades get dull when you're working on them sometimes. I don't sharpen them up multiple times while I'm working with it, but all you do is just go like this a little bit on a piece of sandpaper or a file. Nail file would work fine too. And I just get that edge nice and sharp. So it just takes a little bit of, I don't know, you're kind of honing it. You're not really like sharpening it from scratch, like knives in the kitchen or something like that. For the most part, you just kind of need to hone it. And you can kind of feel it too, This is not blade sharp or anything like that, I can put that right on my finger and it's not going to, cut it or anything like that. It's like knife sharp. But you just get the edge, ready to go. Probably when you buy it new, you probably have to do that a little bit too. But okay, so let's go and look at some of these areas in here. I'm going to start approaching some of these areas that, I've toned in, but I want to look the lightest right now. So that would be like this passage of waves through here down into my light. So it's going to be lighter in the middle and darker out here. So I'm not going to illuminate my, my waves or whatever, spindrift, whitecaps, or whatever you want to call it, in these areas. So it's going to be lighter in here. Okay, so let's see, I'll get in here as close as I can. I work it from the center out like this, so it's going to be illuminated in here and darker out here. So my scratching is going to be kind of like this motion right here. Okay, it's not flat and then up. It's more of like this wispier type of thing where you're going like this and then you're coming up like that. Okay, so it's not just the straight line like that and up. Okay. And I'm not trying to get the look instantly, okay? I'm just you're almost kind of rubbing onto this surface like this. And the more you rub that surface with the edge of the blade, see, there's this little bit of powder that's coming off right here. I mean, you can't see that, but let's see if I can, my fingers are all dirty. But if you can see it, like, as I do this, just like this little powdered, bit of clay comes off. Now, like, again, if you're like someone that's doing this type of motion on here and you want it to look like Munch's, The Scream or something like that in a wood block print, you can do like gouges in here and have it much more bold and expressionistic or something like that. But for me, I usually just do a much more of a kind of a softer, gradual scratch back into it. So you can see that right there? Let's go on the next one right here. Here, I'll do a little bit of this one right here, and so you can see. Like that. See how much lighter that is? And I just like carry that over a little bit. Okay, if you've just joined in, this is just like a scratchboard type of approach on this surface. You don't have to even, this is just one of the benefits. I think a lot of people who use, this Claybord Smooth, they don't do anything, with the subtractive type of ability on their things. They just use this as a panel. Instead of painting on canvas, you paint on, a pre, coated surface like this. And like I said, there's other things like gessoed panels too, or something like that. Gesso, I think it's called gesso board, in fact. But I come from more of a drawing background, so having something where I can kind of draw back into it, just in a reverse type of fashion like this, it's really fun. So that's where I'm kind of making use of that. So remember this big blob right in here? So I'm just going back into it and just removing some of that. You can remove it with sandpaper too, like that. But see, it's getting a little bit less I don't know, whatever, blobby looking. All right, so see that right there? So let's just keep doing this. See this area in here? Let's make this a little bit more interesting. Let's go in here and kind of taper some light back into it a little bit, like that. All right, so see that little shimmer? You can, here, that's what that, here, let's see. That's what that looks like right there. It kind of just tapers the light more, right? So it's kind of nice to kind of be able to, it's almost like you're sculpting light in some way, you know, out of the darker areas. This area in here is still fairly light, but you're sculpting it a little bit more and just kind of altering it. Now, if you take off too much, all you have to do is just go back in, use your ink, and just tone that back in again, right? Or, here's another thing too. Let's say I'm going like this in here, and see, I've scratched back into the gray right in here, right? So I'm revealing more white, okay? But let's say I wanted that scratch to be more of a pure blue within that gray field, or darker gray field, or almost black, right? So you just go like that, you scratch that away, and then you add this back in there. And now, this is a very light blue, but now that scratch is now blue in there instead of white. So you can do all kinds of different things like that, okay? So you can alter, you can do like highlights. So let's say you had a word stamp and you stamped it somewhere in here. It probably better if it's a bold word stamp or something like that, happy birthday, so an H or something like that. You can scratch away highlights on the top of the H if you want to, or you know, do all kinds of things like that. You can, or you can put like a word stamp in a field of tone in the background, and then you can highlight around it like that. And if you want to give it a different color, you can go back and tone it in or something like that. So, you know what I mean? There's all kinds of fun things you can do. That you can make it, like I said, you can make things look more like a wood block print like that. Because this is, in a way, it's almost like we're not digging into this like crazy, like a linoleum block print or a like an eraser carving thing, but you can make this look like an eraser carving thing with these subtractive types of marks with this type of tool here too. That's in the stamp board section of the website. I don't sell stamp board, but I kept that section on the website still because there's a gallery up there showing, you know, some different types of looks. I've gone into, not this Lighthouse, but I've kind of just dug like a big, you know, kind of a scratch around objects like that to make it look much more wood block printish, you know. Just to illustrate some different examples. So you can see that right there in the water like that. So it's a little bit different, like I said, than doing, you know, a white paint pen or something like that. It's much finer looking, you know, potentially light in there. And on here too, we can make it look finer too. I can add some more white pigment ink over the top of it too. All right. Okay, so the tops of these waves too, I can't do this with a white paint pen, but let's make these waves kind of like a little bit wispier, like, you know, with some like mist coming off the top of the wave. Maybe I'll go to this, like this, you know, this fine one right here. And let's see if I can, I don't know if you'll be able to see this though, but I have a dull blade here. Let me see. Here we go. I'll sharpen those later. Okay, perfect. Here. Yeah, I don't know if you can see that. Okay, on here, it's coming, there's a little bit of a wispy thing, and right here, I don't know if you can see where I've kind of gone in here like that. Let me do it over here. This is a little bit of a darker area right in here. Actually, I don't want to scratch into my reeds, though. Yeah, I'll just work around them. It's like doing a little check mark like that. All right. I don't know if you can see it down here. I think you can see it a little bit like that. I mean, I should do it with a lot of this, you know, and follow suit, but see those little things like that. Do something with like animal hair or something like that, you know. Or if you want to make it look windy or something. Talk about that. Jeannie, you should use this. All right, let's see. Let's go up here in the sky. And let's add, okay, so right and around in here, it got a little funky. I got a little bit too heavy-handed. Hey, let's grab a piece of sandpaper. I just ripped off a little piece of sandpaper like this. I let my... you let your RSM subscription run out. Purple would work. Any really color, whatever your favorite color is, should work on here. I would come into it, if you're going to do color tinting on this, start off with a lighter tone. Now, I just used one color. You can use multiple, you know, values of a certain hue if you want to. I just kept it real simple here. Okay, so this is a little area in here. Okay, so see that right in there, how it's, you know, that all that grayscale right in there. Now, I wanted some in there, but I didn't want that much. And there's that little, I don't know if you can see that little bit of I don't know, ink or blotch right in there. I tell you what, see this little cloud right here? Let's get rid of this darkness right here, right behind this cloud, and let's blend it into the background a little bit more, okay? I'm kind of scratching, you know, I'm sanding it off in the movement that I think is going to be conducive for this, you know, little area in here. So it's more like this little vortex, you know, of, I don't know, whatever, light in here. Remember, all these were stamped out in black, right? I didn't switch to a, you know, a lighter gray or something like this, but I can scratch back in here probably and make some of these impressions look a little bit lighter. So lighter around the light source, right? Look at that illumination that's starting to happen. Now I need to wipe off. There's a bunch of powder on this right now too, but all right, but look at that illumination now. I mean, I didn't take off all of that ink right there, but yeah, we can kind of have it passage, you know, a little passage of light down this way too. I'm still going to illuminate that lighthouse, but I'm not going to do it right now. Let's do something like that. Let's see what this little sandpaper can look like down here. That's a real soft light right here, so I'm going to add some of that soft lighting right in here. So I'm going to take my sandpaper and run it from the center out like that, okay? I don't know if that looks a little bit more illuminated down there or not. I did a little bit through here too. Let's see. Yeah, it's a little bit softer. Let's put a little bit of that soft light on here too and see how it looks. Oh, thanks, Jeannie. Yeah, you meant that the Horizon card? Is this scratching technique to create highlights? What Claybord is made mainly for? Claybord's made for just whatever any artist wants to put on a hardboard panel. You know, a lot of painters paint on canvas, right? But a lot of them work on hardboard panels too. So this is just a hardboard panel for really just about almost any type of media that you want to use. I go into it a little bit more at the beginning of this video, you know, if you have a chance to kind of go back in there. But what it's not great for is something like pastels, because it's a smooth panel, okay? So it doesn't have much tooth to it. But Ampersand Art has a you know, a pastel board too, you know, so they have something specifically for that. So Verna, if you wanted to do acrylics and have it on a hardboard panel, you can do that. You can do alcohol inks. You can do oil painting, pen and ink. Like I said, I wasn't quite sure about watercolors, if people use watercolors on this very much. But unlike a lot of different types of media out there, or surfaces, I should say, this one does introduce a potential subtractive type of ability when using inks for the most part. You're not going to do a subtractive ability if you go on here with like acrylic paints. It's just too thick, you know. But I don't know. It's a pretty phenomenal surface, I would say, for inks. Usually when they're talking about like scratchboard, a lot of it is like an India ink type of application that you go into and you scratch back into for a really clean line. But in this one here, you know, I don't know, dye-based inks work, you know, do the trick pretty good. Okay, so I was talking about kind of that movement. I don't know if you can see, but this sandpaper is a little bit textured, so I don't know if there's this little bit of a scratchiness going in here, but in this circular pattern like that. So there's these little lines in there. I can really emphasize that more, you know, if I follow suit and go into it with this and do these, you know, lines back into it like that. But I'm gonna, you know what I mean? That'll take a little bit of time, so I'm just spending a little bit more time with the sandpaper here, because it, you know, covers a wider area faster. But those little details are really fun to add in there too. So see this client right here? I want to illuminate this one a little bit more, I think so. Let's just remove some of that ink. Like that. All right. I'm starting to reveal more of that blue over here too. It's almost like, I don't know, the consistency of the black maybe was different. Maybe it absorbed into there more. I'm not really quite sure, but as I started scratching back into there a little bit, it's like I think the blue penetrated the surface a little bit more or something like that. So I'm removing some of the black, which went on there first, but the blue seems to be, you know, retained a little bit more, because like I said, maybe the blue ink was a little bit thinner in consistency and penetrated, you know, deeper into the board, the clay. I'm not really quite sure. All right, so see this right over here? See, I'm getting some of those, you know, clouds revealed a little bit more, you know, from, you know, how much I applied ink in there. I don't know if you can see it right in here. You can't really, There's a little bit of texturing there from my cloud, but again, if I want that to be revealed a little bit more, you can go back in like that. And you can see more of those clouds. I scratched a little bit too much, but anyway. So those are the types of things it's kind of interesting to play around with like that. Okay, let's see. New stamper for magazine. Did you have a subscription before, Jeannie? Like in the past? Like 20, you know what I mean? Like 20 years ago? I think everyone that stamped seemed to have a subscription to Rubber Stamp Madness at some point in time. And a lot in, you know, those early days when pre-internet, it was like Rubber Stamp Madness was definitely our like connection, you know, to other stampers and events. I visited Rubber Stamp Madness once when I was in Corvallis teaching workshops. I don't know if I was in Corvallis, but I was in some neighboring town, I think. Okay, so we're getting a little bit of highlights on these clouds right in here, a little bit more subtle. There's Claybord Smooth black as well, and that's one that a lot of people think scratchboard is, or how they've been introduced to it is black. You know, it's like black into ink over a white panel, and then you scratch back into it and reveal white. Okay, and that's certainly one style of you know, scratchboard. It's usually the exercises that they have for people, or like in kids like kits, it might be where there's like a colored background, so when you scratch back into the black it reveals the color. Okay, which you can do on those too. You can put color down and add, you know, inks over the top of it, and when you scratch back in you're revealing the color. But like most illustrators, they start off with white though, and they just control wherever they want those blacks to go, as opposed to it just being just strictly a reverse mark type of exercise, you know, where you're just starting with black and revealing white. Okay, so I'm doing this right in here. So I'm scratching back kind of in this circular motion. So when I get over here, I'm scratching like this. And then when I'm going here, I'm scratching this way to keep that kind of that swirling kind of vortex type of motion going. Let me see if I can show you some marks right in here. All right. So right around in here. Not the most dynamic, not that any of my videos are. Like video one, okay, maybe that's clear when I have it down here, that's a little bit more in focus, but let me see if I can give you a feel for what this can look like here by keeping this kind of texturing going. Now again, this is just one way of doing it, you know. I don't do this on like all of my pieces. I've done it, I think I did it on that one Lighthouse box that I just showed. Wherever it went. But I thought that looked pretty cool. So I'm always talking about kind of like visual movement in pieces. Creating a dialogue between like a light source and reflected light down here, something like that. But this is like actually adding like, it's almost like movement into the scene with all of this line work, or scratch work, I guess. Scratch line work. Let's have some... I guess you can do cross hatching too if you want to. But here's some little like wispy kind of movement coming off of these clouds right here. Let's do it down here too. I have it right there. I think doing it everywhere would be a little bit overkill. I'm doing it with the blade, but you can also do it with the sandpaper. You can do like these wisps coming off like that, but you see that little kind of movement like that? So it looks like a windy kind of, you know, I don't know, whatever scenario. All right. It's almost getting too windy in here, though. Maybe I'll tone it with a little bit of a blue, like that. Just kind of mellow it out a little bit. I'm getting more, I don't know, I'm getting a little bit freer as I'm doing this, though. Like I said, I haven't done this bit for a while, but as I'm starting to do this, it's like, you know, you kind of like free up a little bit. Sandy, what issue were you in, or is it in this current issue? There was like I said, there was a bunch of scenes in this latest issue. I got my magazine, you know, but I was thinking they. Rubber Stamp Man is, you know, they don't want someone just, you know, like popping, you know, going online. It's like saying, here's the book, you know, going through page by page or something like that, you know, because they want people to pick up the book. But maybe, you know, when the next issue is out, maybe we'll do like an issue review or something like that. I just got my copy, I don't know when it was, yesterday or 2 days ago, maybe. And I didn't have a chance. I just thumbed through it like really fast right before I jumped on here. Now, let's see. Oh, yeah. Okay, now see this? As I'm putting my hand through this, I'm scratching up like little micro kind of... powdery, I don't know, kind of removals of this black ink off the surface right here. So you can see as my hand's like this. Look at my hand right here. It's picking up all that ink right there. I don't know, I should probably have this like this down on, you know, working on this piece. But, you know, because as I run my hand over it, I'm probably toning my little white, you know, scratched reveal areas, which isn't bad, you know, I don't know, maybe it's blending it in a little bit better. All right. See that area up there? That's what the board really can provide like that. And see this whole kind of vortex, you know, from doing these little scratches like this in here. And the way that I'm scratching it, by the way, is I'm kind of starting from the top of these little billows, and I'm adding more kind of light into that area like that. And then as I move down on the billow, I'm adding a little bit less, so more scratches in the light, less scratches in the dark, if any scratches, okay? And then just to get these little wispy parts like this, I'm just kind of going in and just doing those areas and the areas that we'll be able to see it in. If I added those little wisps like right down in here, I don't know, we wouldn't be able to see it too much because a white line going against this white, very light gray isn't going to show up very much. So let's see. Let's add a little bit more like this. All right. If you've just joined in or something like that, this isn't, or whatever, it's this isn't like some kind of like, this is how you do clouds on Claybord or on scratchboard, you know, whatever. You can do this on scratchboard too. Like the little wispy things like this, I've never done that before, I don't think. I've added highlights usually, but I haven't added this like windy look before, ever, you know. So I'm just kind of winging it here. But I thought that looked pretty cool. And I don't remember doing these little like hairline types of things off the crest of the wave either. But I don't know, it's certainly fun. Okay, now these reeds down here, in my foreground types of imagery, a lot of times I'm adding these little highlights into my areas with a, you know, like a little white paint pen. I'll put a couple little dots on these areas to represent lighting direction or just, you know, some highlighting on some objects like this. But what I'll do is I'm going to flip this upside down like this so I can go for that same type of scratch. Okay, now I'm not trying to stay exactly on the reed. It's going to be impossible for me, but I'll go in, I'll just kind of reveal some highlights on these, on some of it. You don't want to do it too much of it. It might be overkill, but if you do too much, just tone it back in with some black ink. Okay, let me see here. I'll do it on one side so you can do a little compare contrast. So see those reeds down here? And then you can see these ones over here. These ones are a little bit more, I don't know, maybe three-dimensional. Maybe a little bit too much down here. I'll just tone that back in, but let's put them on this side now, okay? Alright, so you bring in those little bit of highlights into your reeds down here, or foreground, whatever, you know, whatever your foreground might be. You could do light sanding, Linda, but it would just, I think it'd just be better just to get the pastel board. You know, because it's inherently made for that, unless you're talking about like adding in some pastel touches into something like this, where you want to do a light sanding or something like that, and then adding it over the top, maybe. Pastels too, I mean, you might be able to do something like, you know, you can go on the smoother board like this, maybe, and maybe you spray it with a workable fixative, which has an inherently kind of textured finish to it. So you might be able to put some pastels over the top of your workable fixative. And, you know, since you bought 60 cans of that, She didn't buy 60 cans. She stocked up. She stocked up though, which is something you have to do when you don't know if you're going to be able to find it. Or it might not be readily available. Okay, so see this little lighthouse right here? I'm going to put a little. There's this little. I forgot what you call those things. That those like window areas coming off like a roof. It's not soffit. I can't remember, but let's put a little bit of highlighting on that. So that reveals a little bit of lighting on top of that right there. It looks really funny because I don't have it anywhere else, so I'm going to put it into some other areas. There's this little chimney right here. Okay, and okay, I came into my lighthouse a little bit. It's very subtle, but a little bit of my cloud impression got into that lighthouse right there. Let me switch tools, so I'll scratch that off. Now this lighthouse there's a little bit of tone on it, right? So if you want to, this isn't going to be like lighting direction. It's kind of the opposite, but I'm just going to give it a little bit of illumination on one side. Something like that. I don't know if you can tell, it's a little bit lighter on that one side. Okay, now here's an area that can really stand to be rendered a lot more. So down in the rocks down here, I'm going to put in some highlights on some of these rocks. So on the tops of the rocks, I'm putting a little bit of a scratched highlight. I'll go for a soft removal, then I'll use the sharper one for a little bit more of a detailed removal. I think I took off too much there. Well, it's really standing out, right? It looks awkward because it's the only rock right there kind of illuminated, so let's see how it looks actually when I keep it consistent and do it to the rest of the rocks here. Okay, do you see those on those rocks now? It looks a lot more three-dimensional now, huh? With those rocks kind of illuminated like that. This is like a fun little exercise. If you're going somewhere and you just kind of pre-toned a bunch of these scenes just where you're doing the subtractive process, you're going out camping or something like that and you don't want to bring a lot of stuff with you or something, you can just pre-tone a bunch of boards and just do this type of thing. So it's like little scratchboard kind of exercises, lighting or texturing, exercises. See this little area down here? Let's get some of those clouds a little bit more defined. Okay. See those little clouds down there now? I'm putting texture in everything now, it seems. Okay. There's those little pebbly, gravel rocks right down here in the sand. So I'm just doing like the opposite of it. We have these, dark, impressions down here. And what I'm doing is I'm just, that type of thing. So I'm just going in here and adding its complement, which is like a light little rock, or it could be a highlight on the top of a dark rock too. So this is like an example of just kind of scratching back in what I would probably normally do with a white paint pen. Another word for scratchboard when you're doing these types of subtractive processes on here is paper. They call it paper engraving, which is kind of what you're doing on this. You're scratching back into this, and an engraving is traditionally like a metal plate or something like that, where you scratch back in like that, and then you're making a print out of it, right? So this is just doing, you're doing these engraved types of marks in here, not for the sake of printmaking with it, but the spirit of it is in an engraved kind of technique here. Okay, so this is that leaf shaped one that I added those highlights back into those rocks with. Now I'm going to go in with my sharper one right here, and I'll add much more whatever defined mark into them, just right on the top surface of the rocks. And again, if you just joined in, this is just one thing. A lot of people who do this on these panels, on these boards, they don't do any of this, because they don't use it as a drawing surface. It's more of like a painting, type of surface. Oh, so around these splashing waves, it might be easier just to add this in, to go back in here with that paint pen and add little dots, but it feels like it's kind of within the spirit of this piece to, this carving almost, to add these little splashy kind of bits in here too. To add little stars, one of the things I did with the kids, I did a project with a bunch of preschool and kindergarten kids, but to add little stars back in the sky, they just add this and did a little twirl, right? So you can also do that down here for these little splashing little waves on the rocks. You can kind of go in here and you just do a little twirl. Now you don't want to press on this too hard, otherwise you're going to press down. You don't want to drill through all the clay down to the board. You just want to kind of give a little bit of a spin like that, and you get these nice little splashing bits. This is the part that everyone loves doing too. When I showed them how to make stars in my class, or in that project for the kids, they loved kind of the reveal. Let's add some of it into to make a little sparkly little surface here too. All right. Like that. All All right, let's go. Let's reveal that lighthouse there too. Okay, so let's get that light kind of illuminated once again. I toned it in, you know, like on accident. So you just just remove the tone over the top of it like that. And let's do a little bit of a highlight on some of these parts around the lighthouse. So I put some marks right back in there. It's not illuminated yet, but I'll get to that. Let's see. Let's try with the... Oh, here. I was going to say, let's use a little bit of a... let's use a little bit of a... my colored pencil here to create a little bit more shading. Maybe I'll create some shadows using color instead of black. Let's try it both ways. Okay, let me see if I can get a much more of a subtle gradation there. I just put way too much of that pencil there. Just kind of anchoring the lighthouse down a little bit more. And let's see, let's go underneath here, this little wave down here, and add a little bit of a shadow underneath it. That will get a little bit of shading underneath our spindrift right here. See this right here underneath your wave? So if you're going light like that, what you do is to make it look a little bit more distinct, you go with a little bit of darkness underneath it like that. Okay, see that wave right there? And see this one in the background? You can see the difference between this one and this one right here. So we'll add a little bit more tone underneath this. So see how it kind of plays with contrast a little bit more like that. So our waves are a little bit more distinct, but since we went with that blue tone, let's see if we can add a little bit more of a bluish tinge to it using just a colored pencil. I think that'll be a pretty good tool. Maybe let's just say for the fun of it too, let's play around with a little bit of alcohol pens. Okay, this might be a little bit. No, that one's not too dark. Let's go underneath here a little bit. These waves down here. That. Came in here with the colored pencil, but we can hit a little bit with this. The side of this lighthouse. Maybe this is like too conservative. I can barely see it. Let's go a little bit darker here. Always start off a little bit lighter, you know, because you can always go darker on this. Now on this one you could scratch it back out, you know what I mean? But I don't want to do too many additive processes, you know, where I'm going to have to, you know, subtract it, which just because I can, I don't want to if I don't have to, so. This. So slightly brighter, darker blue. It's subtle still. Well, that one wasn't quite so subtle there, but Like I said, as I do this, I get a little bit gutsier, you know. But I do it through lighter tones first, so I can kind of build up to it. Alright. Let's blend that out a little bit. The clay is very absorbent, so as you work on it with your alcohol pens, it really soaks in there quite a bit, I'm finding. I'm not quite sure if I've used alcohol pens on these types of boards before. I might have, but I don't remember. Alright, that's way too dark, so let's blend that out a little bit. It's a different consistency, this alcohol. It's given it a shinier finish, but I'll spray this out and it'll give it a uniform finish on here. All right, that was that experiment right there. Let's try a little bit with the colored pencil here. All right, this blue is really bold on here for some reason. So I'll just do it very lightly. I don't know why this particular blue is really, really standing out in here. Alright, a little bit more of a bluish tinge. Let's try something here. Let's go in here with a little bit of a warm tinge, if I could find... Yeah, maybe this colored pencil right here. It's a little bit of this tan color, a little peachish color. And we'll see if I can get a little bit of a warmer glow in some of these lighter areas right in here. I need a Lazy Susan here or something. I'm just joking. There was a Lazy Susan stamping product at one time in this industry. So you can spin your card around as you're working on it. All right, so I think this little bit of a warmer temperature worked out okay. So it's a little bit of a warm and cool. Can you, I don't know, is that warmth kind of showing up a little bit? It's very, very subtle. But, I don't know, so we've played kind of temperatures against one another right here, warm against cool. So cool in the shadows. A lot of times the warm tones, my instructor used to say is in the shadows. Some of the warmest color temps are in the shadows. I didn't do it here, but okay. So let's add a nice glow to our lamp there. Dormer, thank you. All right. Let's see. Jen, you should give it a try. It's pretty fun. Like I said, I'm just using this surface as like a scratching surface right here, but I made use of the, you know, that subtractive process right here with all these little marks like that. Yeah, everyone's going to have a little bit of a different look too. That, you know, when we were doing this, it's so, the more things that you do by hand, okay, in pieces, the more kind of personalized something gets, potentially, right? The more things we do that are mechanical, there's less of that. Okay, so a lot of people don't, they say, hey, they want it to look like a professional card or something like that. But you know, having some of that kind of expression in a piece, like, it's different when you receive like a handwritten something, right, than a typewritten something or an email, right? But there's a lot of people's kind of their own kind of hand movement. How they say it's really hard to change someone's, your handwriting. That's why they have handwriting analysis, analysts for things too. But I don't know. There's a lot of just, I don't know, personal expression that goes into this type of subtractive mark. Should someone want to use it that way, you don't have to, like I said again. But it's pretty interesting to see, because it's been a while since I taught, classes doing this, where you have a bunch of people in there, to take a look at their pieces. But you know what I mean? Just like someone's own kind of handwriting, everyone's came out pretty distinctively their own. Now, we didn't know, people hadn't developed like a technique or style yet, it was in a class and they're doing their first, pieces like that. But I could tell, um, the differences in appearance just from people's first piece. They were very distinctive. Okay, so I'm adding in some of this pigment ink in here like I normally do. I don't remember if I've done this a lot, but just kind of adding that other kind of texture in there. It's like a different white too, I guess. I've seen how that looks. And these pieces, again, really shine too. When you spray seal them or you coat them with something, and you can coat it with something very, very thick if you want to too. Which is what I do. I personally, I use the Krylon triple thick just because I bought several cans of that at one time. And I don't use it as much on cards. I do it sometimes, but the triple thick really works really great on these types of surfaces right here. I think this doesn't look good down here. A little bit too much texture, too soft. All right. Let's see right here. Okay, I didn't like too much of that pigment ink down here on this rock. I'm going to scratch that off a little bit. Yeah, actually, I'll put a little highlight on that rock. Maybe like that. Think about these birds right there. I don't think I'm going to do that. I think they're a little bit too close for that area up there. Yeah. Oh, I have this diver that I don't think I've used yet, but he would be cool kind of having that diver kind of out in these ways right here. Night diving, like night surfing, you know. A different type of grouping of animals comes out at night, which is kind of fun. All right, so anyways, I think that is it. Let me see. That one is really dull. Maybe sharpen up that one. All right. All right, I can't quit on this thing. This is too fun. Adding more movement to that wave like that. Or more specifically, the wind on the wave like that. There we go. How's that? That got into a little bit of cross-hatching, which it doesn't exist in the other area. Let me tone that down a little bit. All right, so anyways. Where did it go? Claybord. This is probably not the same packaging that they use anymore for this, but create fine detail, scratch, lift, erase, or sand for vivid highlights. So forgiving, completely erasable. Looks like they're doing some sort of wash on here, like that. But I don't know. Check them out. Check them out if you have a chance. AmpersandArt.com. Okay. Just for different types of surfaces and whatnot. They have a YouTube channel as well. I don't think they have a huge amount of videos on there, but they do show some different techniques, and I think they probably go into their different types of panels as well. Pastel board, black, Claybord Smooth. They spell everything with a B-O-R-D instead of A-R, you know, board, B-O-A-R-D. Their whole shtick is the B-O-R-D. But even if you typed in Claybord with a, you know, the correct board spelling, it would probably show up or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, check them out. And I don't know. The panels, okay, the pieces, if you just logged on at some point in time after my kind of intro on this, the pieces that a lot of stampers used are the art tile size, the 2x2s, the domino sizes, there's inchies, what ATC? ATC was one of the popular sizes as well. And yeah, and then if any of you have, I mentioned this before, but if you want to have something for like a perfect, you know, type of material for things like magnets, pins, maybe not so much pins. I don't know. People, I don't think we used to do pin sharing though, huh? On stamping. But ornaments, Christmas ornaments or something like that. A lot of jewelry makers used the inchy size stamp board or Claybord Smooth. Now 1-inchy art tiles, I guess they're called. But there was all kinds of things. Okay, going back to the crocodile, if you're doing an ornament type thing and you need to put a punch through it, okay, the crocodile like cuts through this thing like butter, you know. So that's a really good accessory for that. And I really liked the idea. I think I probably must have done it somewhere along the line, but the 2 by 2 inch ones like this, if you're stamping on like a little scene like that, but if you do it like on the diagonal and then you put like a little punch in there, that looks like the really great format for an ornament. And the backs are, this is a piece of a different type thing, but you can put it on something like this, like a piece of silver foil or something like that, and then you can put another one on the back if you want it to be, an ornament from both sides or something like that. But again, those crocodiles cut through these things like instantly, and this is a hard, board panel like that, so it was really convenient that we didn't have to use like drills or something like that if you happen to have one of those crocodiles. I don't know, do people know what crocodiles are? Yeah, long-time stampers, you might have one of those types of things, but yeah, they're really great to punch through these for those other types of whatever usages of it. So I don't know, it's just really fun to do. And like I said, it's like super relaxing too. Don't forget that Kevin has it's on the channel. Oh yeah, so if you wanted to check out any of the types of projects too, using this type of material, I think you'd have to type in Stampscapes and then stamp board, one word, B-O-R-D, for it to come up. I don't know if it's going to come up if you type in Stampscapes Claybord or Art Tiles. Art Tiles is the new name for it. I don't know. I might have a playlist actually, so you can bring up the playlist. I think there's the Stampboard playlist. I think where I have anywhere where I've used these types of panels or tiles in that the playlist, a curated grouping like that. So yeah, thanks, Cynthia. But yeah, and there's different types of looks too. And then there's the Stampboard section on the Stampscapes website. You'll see the inchies done. There's a gallery with different people's usages of them. But there's a lot of different things on there. The Queen's Ink was a store, and they had a bunch of stuff. They might have it. I don't know if there's a stampboard.com anymore. They used to have that, but I'm not sure where all that like those other examples are. Outside of scenic stamping. I mean, if it's on Stampscapes site, I'm doing scenic stamping stuff on there using Stampscapes, of course. But there's all kinds of other usages for it. But for me, it's a really great surface just to stamp on. It is really beautiful in how kind of absorbent that material is, how smooth it is. And then when you start applying different types of media on there too, certain media goes on there really great. Again, because it's absorbent. It's not like, so when we talk about these as like being tiles, it's not like stamping on like a tile for your bathroom sink or something like that. It's more of the clay surface, like scratchboard. Okay, so it's a workable soft clay surface as opposed to a fired hard tile one. And as you can see, you can go back and scratch all these little fine marks into it with no problem. So yeah, look into it, have some fun, get the maybe the ATC sizes are really fun, or the domino sizes. They have it over at Dick Blick, I think that was the cheapest place that I saw it. They have it on Amazon, I believe, but way back when it was like in this big bulk bag of it, which would probably be a really great deal if you found out that you liked it and like doing little embellishments on your pieces. You can do like small embellishments. People used to do things like on the inchies. You can have a grouping of inchies, like, I don't know, 4x4 or something like that. And they taped it down using a double stick tape. Okay, so that when they stamped over the top of these things, I mean, it was a little bit wobbly, but they got pretty good impressions, like even where the tiles were matching up. And then they would stamp it out, right? Whatever they were stamping out. And then they would kind of color it in, do whatever they were doing to the tiles, like a little picture, right? It's like, 4x4, so is it 8, 16 tiles or something like that? And then they would just, they would like put it in a bag and mail it to someone. So it's like a little puzzle, which is kind of cool too. That was really fun. The little inchies ones made great little tiles to do like one letter in and just, spell something out, people's names or whatever. I don't think is there anything too crazy like happy birthday, with a bunch of, 1 inch by 1 inch tiles or something like that. But you could, so I don't know. There's a lot of different possibilities in that three-dimensional type of piece, that we would normally wouldn't do with cardstock. You know what I mean? We're not gonna send out someone, a bunch of like little 1 inch pieces of paper usually, just thrown into an envelope or something like that. But there was something a little bit more substantial to, a little raised piece like that, I guess, that makes it really conducive for certain types of applications and projects. Hello, Laura. Well, you came for the best part of it, though. With this being done, not adding in like 3,000 little scratches, like hairline scratches in this, this panel right here. 5x7 Claybord Smooth. And remember, there's different types of clayboards out there too. I think there's Claybord. I don't know if the textured one was called. They call this one Smooth, but maybe the other one was like Claybord Matte. And that doesn't sound familiar though. You just got to go and check it on their website though. But the Smooth one I thought was the one that was perfect for stamping on. For just about any ink that you want to use on there. So it was really fun. Tools, Ginger, I'll post them in the description of this when I get this thing posted up here. But as far as this this piece with these two scratch knives, they were the speedball ones, okay? There's different types of tools out there, but I always found that these two that come in a 2-pack were the best, okay? There's a lot of other ones out there. Some look like spoons and things like that, but there's a lot of other tools out there for the scratchboard artist. Sandpaper, steel wool. But Ampersand Art has this other one called a fiber brush. Now that one was really fantastic too. I have some of those somewhere. I don't know. I got them put away, but I would have used that one on here had I had it handy. Okay. I think I have a lot of videos on how to use that type of thing, though. There's a way to use that fiber brush. But anyways, I'll put links, where you can see it. But otherwise, you can just use it as a reference, too, and you can go shop for the best prices for these things, though. But there's a blister pack of the 2-pack of these. If you have a Michaels near you, too, or another type of... like Joann's or something like that. These tools right here actually used to be on the store shelf. And I think it would be in the calligraphy, the drawing section or aisle of your Michaels. I know that for a fact these used to be there. Okay. I don't know if they're there anymore. If they're still selling it or not. But those ones were on the shelf. Or if you have an art store near you, it would probably be, if it's a good art store, it would probably be in that section there with the calligraphy stuff. It just depends on how much they have, but I'll put a link to it. And I'll try to get the models too of this. I'm not sure if they sell these individually though. They used to sell them in packs of 12, but I think the blister pack was more common. But these two are the ones that I use all the time. And then you just have to get a, calligraphy nib holder, okay? Just a universal nib holder like that, and you're set to go. So there's certain types that are available out there, but Dick Blick has it for sure. This is actually a Dick Blick standard, just generic calligraphy nib holder. A lot of these other nib holders they don't have anymore. I like this one with this cork here, but it was probably like, I don't know, too expensive to make or something like that, so they stopped making them. This was the Koh-i-Noor one out of Germany. But I don't know. You gotta think. I gotta think that there's other types of nib holders out there because a lot of people do calligraphy. That's a huge industry. So I don't know, yeah, if those holders are still out there, but I'll get them posted. There's a stamp board playlist. Oh, fantastic. Yeah, check out the stamp board playlist. You know, you'll see. I don't use too many tools because for me, it's all about the these two ones and the fiber brush. Okay, from Ampersand Art. That I don't know. They might not sell that individually like everywhere because it's a real niche type of tool. But there's kits too. There's scratchboard tool kits, okay, when it comes, you know, there's like 5 or 6 different tools in here, but my favorites are these two right here, so I don't know. Yeah, give it a try, Annie. You like it? I think you'll like it. You know, it's just a different a little technique on there. For me, I'm probably spending as much time right with that subtractive type of mark than I was with the you know, stamping and toning this in. That didn't take any time at all. But yeah, they're really fun kind of textural types of experiments. And like I said, this thing really looks awesome when you give it that big, you know, slathering. I mean, you can give it like a light coating with a, you know, a thin coating of a Krylon, you know, crystal clear, something like that. But if you lacquer this thing, practically or like a polyurethane, you know, like a really thick spray. And I don't do it lightly. I really layer it on there pretty thick. Don't spray it standing up, otherwise you'll get drips. But if you have it flat like this and spray it with a really thick coating, and then really let that thing set up and dry maybe overnight before you know, put your finger into it or something like that, it really looks like a glazed finished piece, and it just has a really fantastic feel to it, you know, having that shiny coating over the top of it. It's that's when it really looks really fantastic. I guess you can do things like this too. You can mount it on something, you know, with a, you know, like a matting type of thing, except you'd mount this one. But oh, one of the things I didn't mention too is the sides of these panels like this aren't terribly exciting, you know what I mean? Because it's the same color as this board right here, right? But these things are 3-dimensional. So especially with the ornaments, what I did was I took them and, okay, not with this color right here, but if you have like a silver or a gold one, especially for those smaller sizes, they're really fantastic. You just take it and you dab it into the edges. I'm not gonna do it here, but you dab it in like this, like on a pigmenting pad or something like that. I like it with the metallics though too. And you'll get this, you know, metallic edge going on around here. I've tried it with pens, you know, we used to do this with a pen too. That was a hassle. With the metallic pens, it was just so much easier to do it with the, here, like, here's a platinum planet right here. So that would probably, like a silver one around the edge would probably be cool. I think I need to re-ink this though, so I'm not going to do it right now. But sometimes it goes a little bit over the front of it too, where you're dabbing it into the pad a little bit. You're kind of squeezing it in there. But if you get that little sliver of this metallic around this, I think it looks really good. And it especially looks good on like a little Christmas ornament style of project if you get a little bit of gold around the thing. It looks like it's been framed off with gold ink, but then you also have it on the sides like that too. So, you know, there's different ways to finish these pieces off. But I would at least, you know, take and add like black around here, you know, like a dye-based ink or something like that, just to finish it off a little bit more, because you can see that edge, you know what I mean? Like I said, it's kind of boring like that, so make it exciting, you know, like that. Oh, some people used to use those tapes too. Okay, I'm starting to remember all these things. Some people used to put that tape on that edge, that like gold tape or something like that, and then they would fold it over the front of it. Maybe not on a 5x7 piece, but you know, when you're dealing with like a little domino size or something like that, and it's kind of going over it, you know, it looked really cool like that too. So, but yeah, check it out. We might have some of those examples of some of these things I'm just remembering on the website under the stamp board section. Like I said, there's a gallery in there too. So, yeah. Okay, so you have black, so you're all set. I'm in this thing. I have a blick near. If you got a blick near you, yeah, they probably have it. So, I don't know. You might be able to check online too. Check out, Ampersand Art or Claybord. And what is it called? It might be called Claybord Art Tiles or something like that. I don't know if they'll have the art tiles, but I'm guessing that they'll have the 5x7 board. They might have smaller sizes, I'm not sure, but the 5x7 used to be the smallest size like that. It might have been that, yeah, Laura, that sounds really familiar. I never had that tape, though, but yeah. That sounds really familiar to me. They come in, like, gold, right? I think that's the one I saw. If they have metallic tapes like that. Yeah, they were real thin. They were like, I don't I don't know. I don't even know if they weren't. They're smaller than a quarter inch, right? It might have been a quarter inch though, but they just kind of they roll it out probably like that and then lay it down like that, and then they just wrapped it around the edge, which, like I said, it was a really cool finish to these pieces, and as like little embellishments or ornaments, it was like perfect for that. So I don't know. I'll have to take a look at that washi tape, yeah. But okay, well that was probably it then. Yeah, I think all I saw. This is like 20 years ago too. Yeah, well, with the stamp board and stuff. I don't know, maybe not that long ago, 15. When I saw a lot of this stuff being done like that. So I don't know. Yeah, I think it'd be really cool. If especially if you have different patterns too, you can incorporate it into this. And like I said, there's something just a little bit different. We can do something similar like this on a piece of, cardstock, but like I said, this panel like this, like even, 2 by 2 inch, there's a little bit of, I feel there's a different spirit, like if you're stamping on like a domino or something like that, which I've never done before, or three-dimensional media. I don't know. It just feels there's a different type of feel to it. I guess because it's three-dimensional. I wouldn't say it feels like I'm doing sculpture here or something like that, but the mindset's a little bit different doing these raised types of whatever surfaces like that. Like on the Facebook group too. Someone stamps on actual tiles, right? I haven't seen her pieces in a while, but those things were really awesome. But I think she probably, I forget her name, but she went back over them and probably sealed them off again. And I was guessing she was using the Stays-On inks for different colors. I don't think it would, yeah, I think that would have to have been it, right? But I don't know. This is one of those things you can get that tile-like look, but you can do anything you want on there. That's the thing. It accepts just about any type of media that you want. Like I said, a lot of people paint on these things and use them as just their hardboard panel surfaces. There's gesso boards too, so maybe they use a little bit more of that for like oil painting. But I saw a lot of painting types of applications for this done, and it was beautiful too for those like I said, if you just joined in, those alcohol washes on this thing. When you have certain types of things done on cardstocks, even like real thick ones, how it bows and everything like that, with these ones are always going to stay perfectly flat, with those types of applications. So there's something to be said for that too, for those types of different types of media on there. So I'm trying to think if there's something. So I think okay, so on something like this, let's say you wanted to emboss on here too, add things down here and then emboss on here, you can have that heat on here as long as you want, because it's not going to affect things like it does with paper. Like I said, I'm not saying this is like a superior surface, but it's to cardstock for, us card makers. But as far as just a general type of, blank medium that accepts anything, just as good or if not better than, those types of thinner types of absorbent media, it's this one right here, in my opinion. So I don't know. It's just fun to try. Give it a try. Yeah, like I said, go get the like the ATC sizes or something like that. You know, I don't know if you want to start off with inchies if you're not doing things in inchy formats or something like that. But the ATCs ones are really fun. Or you know, that's 5x7. If you get anything down there, oh my God, I stamped it and I skewed the image or something like that. Just take some fine, extra fine sandpaper and just sand it off and just start off again like that. I wouldn't want to sand this piece off, with all that, but if I had to, okay, I can take like one of those sanders, with like a really fine thing, and I sand this right off, and just as long as you don't sand forever on there and get, through all that clay, it's completely, like I said, so forgiving, completely erasable. So that was part of the reason why they were also adding in the steel wool into those kits, I guess, for different types of marks, but you can also erase with the steel wool, so that's like an even finer type of like sandpaper type of application on there. So yeah. I feel like I'm like a spokesperson for ampersand. I'm not, but I do love that surface to stamp on. It's really, really something. Yeah, I was totally out of practice with it, but I know seeing all these little types of things like that makes me want to do a couple more of these at some point in time. But anyway, thanks for joining in. Let's see, what do we have here? Ginger. Okay, Blick has the inchies and the 2x2. Wait a minute, they don't have like the Blick doesn't have the. Let's see here. Yeah, okay, so Linda has some gold tape. 18 karat gold tape. yeah, the tapes are awesome. Okay, so inchies and 2x2 before washing. Gold and silver pinstripe tape was used, and Krylon metallic pens were used too. We were using a lot of those pens, for those sides of the stamp board. You know what I mean? Like 20 years ago or something like that, when I was going around and teaching the classes, in-person classes, a little bit more often. Let me see something right here on okay, well, here, I was going to go on Dick Blick, but maybe I want to do that right now. You guys can all go and check it out or something like that. But Ginger, that's the only sizes they have. They don't have the ATCs or like the domino sizes. I think they had some other kind of other tape board too. Hello, Beatrice. Good to see you. We're just talking about stamp board, then called Claybord Smooth, and now called. They're called Claybord Art Tiles, right? Ginger, I can't even remember the name and convention of it. I know the Art Tiles is in the mix, though. But we're looking for like different sources and finishing types of things. Okay, they have other. Okay, yeah. Okay, but yeah, like I said, Dick Blick had some really great prices in there, as with most of their things. So I don't know. I'll post, and then if you can see, there's a 2-pack of scratch knives. These are called scratch knives. They're also called scraper tools a lot of times. And sometimes I've looked it up under those names and I couldn't find it, but then I typed in like speedball and I just went down the list of supplies, and I found them. Now I'd have to think that Dick Blick has them. They might not. But like I said earlier, if you just popped in here, Michaels used to have them on shelf, so would they have them on their website? I don't know. They might. Michaels might have it on, the art tiles as well. I'm not sure, but the larger sizes, the smaller sizes are called art tiles. The larger sizes are called Claybord Smooth. So I don't know. Check them out. If anyone does something, drop me a note and let me know what you think about it. Or if you have any questions, certainly drop me a note on it, and we'll work you through. But like I said, this is really a panel where you can do all kinds of things on it. Now I'm starting to remember too. I saw people do alcohol washes on this before. Okay, I don't know if it was a scenic stamping thing or if I saw it on the Ampersand site, but they did those alcohol washes, and then they did these scratch marks back into it, I think. Or they stamped over it and they did these highlighted things, just doing like large, removals of things, making it look like a eraser carving style of print they scratched back, I think, the alcohol ink off of the pieces or something. There was something like that done, I seem to recall, which was really cool. So, anyways. Oh, they do have, yeah, the Claybord they're going to have on there, Linda. I wasn't quite sure if the art tiles, or if you look up Stampboard, if they'll have that on there. But yeah, check it out. Okay, yeah. See, that's the thing right there. The Amazon one, it was that 10-pound thing, which, if you're going to have like a stamping ornament making party sometime, that might be a good way to go. 10 pounds, that's a lot of those little tiles on there. Looks like Dick Blick has a lot of Claybord tools. Yeah, they should. Like I said, try to find the Speedball blister pack of these two, though. And if they have that, that would be an awesome kind of starting point. And remember, as you do this, periodically, don't do it too often, otherwise you're going to wear this down. But when you're sharpening this, like I said, if you have a little nail files are perfect for this, but especially if it's a little bit used, but you just kind of hone this a little bit like this. Don't go like this, with the tool, but just, you put it flat and then you just do it on a little bit of sandpaper like this, okay, and you just sand it down a little bit, a couple times, and it's ready to go, okay? And that you'll be able to use your tool for a very long time. Unless you're using it all the time, you love it, then, maybe buy a pack of a dozen of these or something like that. But, yeah, the Speedball ones, though, I found that the steel on the Speedball ones was probably better than a lot of the other brands. There's not a huge amount of brands out there, okay, with scratchboard tools. Like I said, it's a niche type of tool, so most of the ones that you'll see is the spear-looking one. But again, see, I came in here and get this varied kind of removal of the top of these waves out there. That's not, I'm not going to do it with something like this little point here, which would be like scratching back into, unless you want to go for this total textural theme where everything's kind of this same uniform, very thin line. But these two, for me, are like the perfect tools like that. And then you can expand out into different things, like I said, like little pieces of sandpaper or something like that, and various grits, steel wool, which people might have in their home, something like that to go on there. I wouldn't recommend, like, they talk about like X-Acto blades or something like that. That's not really made for that, they're too sharp, and they might start gouging out in there, unless you have like a broken blade or something like that where you're going for the edge of it, or something like that. Or they talk about like maybe like a pin or a needle. Maybe you can do that. It's not as quite comfortable, and I don't find that the process scratches back into it as something that's like tailor-made for it like this. So, and I mean, these like tools like that blister pack's like cheap too. So, it's fun to go into it with the tools that are kind of made for it. As far as I think having a really good first experience with it. Than using kind of like tools. That might be a little bit more clunky, where it's like, wait a minute, Kevin said this was fun. You know what I mean? So, these are like precision, like drawing instruments, that, like professionals use, as well as the beginners. So, and you know what I mean? Like I said, they're cheap. So, hello, Anthony. Thanks for joining in. Jen, you have a Dick Blick near you. That is awesome. We have one here in San Diego, but it's like clear downtown, you know. I've never been in there before. I just heard that they have like specific parking just for the store, though, you know. So if I ever went down there, I have to go check it out. But yeah, we love going to art stores, you know. That's the like you know like going into like a toy store as a kid, you know. I was like office supply stores, art stores, paper stores for sure, right? So yeah, any excuse. All right, folks. Have a great rest of evening. Thanks for joining in. I'd like to see, you know, if anyone does something with the boards. I'd love to see examples of it, you know, with whatever media you use on there. Send me an email and a attachment. I'd love to take a look. Or if you have any like technical questions, if you've run into any kind of problems, drop me a note and we'll work you through them like that. But yeah, have some fun with it, and I don't know, we can come up with some really great ideas for it. Maybe we could submit them over to Ampersand Art to see if they can put them on their site or something like that. They need more examples of it. We don't want this product to like disappear, you know, for lack of kind of awareness of it or usage of it, you know, because it's a really great source to have for this type of thing. And totally, it's like the only thing like it as far as I know. All right, folks, have a great rest of evening. We'll talk to you again.